right, so we have marked out fancy quilt top number 1, and now we're going to do some compositional quilt top, some compositional quilting type design. That's just where you break it down into different sections and quilt it. And we are going to map out design number 2. Now, I didn't make a worksheet for this because it's kind of freeform, and I'm really excited to kind of let you all decide how far apart you want your lines and what you like that's aesthetically pleasing to you. If you've never done this concentric circle design, it's not going to be fun for you to do that in and out of all of these weird areas. You'll want to practice that a lot before you stitch it. But luckily for everyone out there, free motion quilting is your own style, it's your own thing. So you can put a nice tight stipple in here, you could do paisley, you could do clouds, you can do whatever you want that's going to make you happy to put in here. The only thing that I recommend is that you do something a little more linear and straight open in here. So like a lead pipe design would be pretty cool in here. And then something more round and compact and a little more dense for quilting in here. And I like using a contrasting thread because it really shows a lot of versatility. On the back, I ran out of my bobbin thread I had here. I used a different one. But you can see how when it blends, you really don't see as much difference with a thread that blends versus a thread that does not blend as well. So let's get to mapping out this one. And again, you don't have to follow the lines that I'm using for quilting. They won't even be the same as what's on this placemat. So I hope that's not concerning for many of you. I will tell you the inches that are on this placemat though. I'll measure them as we go. All right, so we're going to do our first straight line. We're going to go from 22 to 2. That gives us 20 inches. We're going to base everything off of this straight line. So we want 14 inches. We'll go from 6 to 20. Then from 2 to 22. I'm curious because you can hear everything in this house. I'm in my studio filming. Can y'all hear the thunder rolling outside? If I can get 20 more minutes, I can get this sucker done without terrible rain clogging up the sound. So 6 to 20, that is pretty close. So I'm just going to move that there. And then we just line it up once again, because it's very easy to get these all angled just a little weird, even with your ruler. You would think everything would be perfectly straight, but it is not. The fabric moves a little bit every time you draw. That can make it a little more difficult. All right, so there is our 20 by 14 inch square rectangle. So this is a very simplistic concept. We're just going to create various rectangles and square-like shapes that kind of dip into cavities that we create and kind of press out to create more cavities and open space. This is a great way to divide your negative space even on big quilt tops. If you could do some of this all the way across, it's far easier to fit designs into basically your own patchwork that you would have created than it is to try to figure out what fancy things you could do in the background and feathers and whatnot that you can fill. And that's a little more modern as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my purple pen, okay, and I'm going to measure, let's say, 3 inches down, okay? So again, I'm trusting my ruler and my ability to make straight lines, and I'm going to line this black line up with my blue line that I drew to try to keep my ruler as straight as possible across, and I'm at 3 inches down, and I'm going to go over 3 inches and stop. Okay, and this is not any like award-winning formula. This is just me doing what I think will look nice from my brain when I'm done. Okay, now I'm going to line up one of my inch lines with that blue line that I just made. Make sure that it's nice and square with my outside line. And I'm going to come down. Let's come down 4 inches. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to come over. I'm going to line up this with my outside line. I'm going to draw 2 inches. We're going to do this until we figure it out. Okay, and again, if you don't like the way that I'm drawing this, I want you to practice doing your own kind of design. So we came down 4 inches, and to make this look different, instead of having that line go at the 3 inches that I made before and have it continue over, I'm going to come up an extra inch to create some versatility in my design. You see how this is a little higher than this? I'm going to travel over. We'll do 1, 2, 3, 4 inches over. And let's do 2 inches down. Let's see, how many inches do we have left? We've got 5 inches to the end. So let's go ahead and go 3 inches over. Straighten that up. See, my fabric wants to move with me. And we'll go all the way up to the top. Okay? So this is our first puzzle piece. Now, you notice I've got dividing lines in between all of these. I don't know if you can see that super well down below. I've got these dividing lines right in here that separate one design from the other. I'm going to create that border with my ruler when I'm stitching. So I'm not going to muddy the waters and map that out now. But if you wanted to map that out on your top before you went to the frame, to the machine, and you want to make sure that you get that all squared away, just know that whatever line that you draw first, when you make that echoed line, if you draw that echoed line on the top, every other line that you draw, make sure that your echoed line is always above this line. So that echo line will always be on the top portion of any line you draw. Okay, so for every blue line, that purple line would be above it, so that it keeps all of our measurements the same. Now, the only thing that I want you to consider when you're drawing these echo lines is that sometimes the space in here can get too small, and then it makes it hard to put whatever design you're working in there. So you want to keep in mind not to make that too small if you can help it. Okay, so now we're going to work off of our second line that we drew. We're going to come down, and I like to just mark the first one with purple. We're going to come down 2 inches just to change it up. Okay, we're going to draw 1 inch out. Well, let's do 1.5 inches because that splits up this 3-inch space. And then we want to come down far enough to give us enough space to come down and quilt here and quilt over. Keeping in mind that if our line is always at the top, that's going to cut into some of the space that we can quilt in. So we're going to line this bad boy up. We're going to come down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches. Line this up with our outer blue edge so that our horizontal line will be straight. And we're going to come over 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Oh, that's a half. 1, 2, 3, 4.5 inches. Let's just do an even 5. I don't like the 1/2 inch thing. Only do it if you have to, because then that makes the space that you can quilt in here pretty small. Okay? Next, we're going to line it up. And let's go up 4 inches. Okay, and I'm doing that so that it comes down and around, so it's not even with this line. If I had only come up the 3 inches, it would have been even with that line, but taking it to the 4th inch gives me some versatility, so I'm creating kind of like a stair-like pattern. We'll come over. Three inches. And 3 is a good number. I mean, if you're doing this on a really big background, I would do 5, 6, 8, 10-inch wide sections to really suck up that space and divide it without having to do a lot of really dense quilting. We'll come down 3 inches, and we will come over to the edge. Section 2 is complete. Okay? So now what I'm seeing is a lot of stair stepping on the left, and it's a little more open on the right over here. So when I do my next line, I'm going to cater to that, and I'm going to make this a little flat, come down here, and then come up to really balance out my piece. So we'll go from the top line that we drew right here, line up one of our number pieces, and I like this width right here. So we're going to come down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, oops, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, okay? And then we're going to go across. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll go across 5. We'll come down 4. We'll come over 3. Let's come over 4. We'll come up 1, 2, 3, 4, puts us even with this line. So we want to come up 5, maybe 6. Let's go up 6 inches. And then we'll come over. We're going to come over 3 inches. And again, we want to play into that stair stepping, so we want to create some dimension here. And we'll come down 3 inches and over. Okay? So right where we are, you could totally stop and be done, but for me, this space looks too big and this space looks too big. So I'm going to creep some other elements in here without having to really impede in this space. So we're going to come down, and this is just visually, this doesn't match this, so it's really bothering me. We're going to come down 2 inches and come over. We're going to come over 2 inches, come down 3 inches, come over 3 inches, and down into the empty space. Then we'll pop up out of here, and we'll come up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches. That was exactly 1.5 inches away from this line. We're going to come over 2 inches now. I just made a boo-boo. Right now, if we're following our protocol and we're filling everything, our extra echo line is on the top, I'm going to have 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch in here to work with to get my quilting design in, and that's no good. So let's make a new line. You can erase that. If you didn't draw it and you're paying attention, skip it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So instead of going up 5, we're going to go up 4. We'll come over 2, down for 2, and over for the remainder, okay? And that's going to be done. All right, and we're going to improvise a little bit with these 2 sections at the end because they were kind of an afterthought to fill out the piece. So if you made this boo-boo like I did, get a Q-tip, put some water on it, and dab that bad boy and let it dry before we get started. So if you are a sit-down quilter, it would probably be easier for you at this time to cut right down the middle. Okay, you're going to want to make sure you leave enough space that you can cut it down the middle and have 2 separate quilt sandwiches. That's probably going to be easier for you to maneuver around. And again, you want to keep in mind that you want to have enough space that when you're working at your machine and you're moving that fabric sandwich around, okay, that you're able to hold on to the edges, especially when you're doing the free motion quilting designs. If you don't, or you're not sure, these things are awesome. They're made by the Gypsy Quilter. I love these. They're a 2-pack. They cost 20 bucks. You can get a small one and a big one. These are great, especially for me when I'm free motion quilting, because they have these little grips at the bottom that will grip your fabric sandwich and little handles at the top. And this feels a little more like moving a long arm quilt around, the long arm machine. So for me, this really helps to translate my skills from a long arm machine to a sit down machine. It also helps too because my hands get really tired in this down flat position, even with gloves and everything else on. That it helps to have a different position to put my hands in. So if I were working on free motion in this area, I would put the big hoop on and I would hold it and I would move it around. Granted, if this were all on a fabric sandwich, the fabric sandwich that is pinned would move better with it, but it's a really cool concept. And this nice wide angle helps it to work on most any domestic machine. If you need something like this, I do have a couple on my Bold Notion Quilting webpage. Again, they're really helpful. I know you can get these at the big weighted ones that are circles with the Martelli brand, but those are so expensive. And the weight does help you to push things around, but you got to do what works for you on your budget. So